Hey everyone, today we're going to take a look at this 2022 Toyota GR86. Everyone should be pretty familiar with this vehicle by now. It's a rear-wheel drive sports car co-developed between Toyota and Subaru. Subaru's version from 2012 on, when this car debuted, has been known as the BRZ, Subaru BRZ. This vehicle here, though, the Toyota version, has gone through a few different name changes, at least in the United States. It's gone by even different names elsewhere in the world, but it was originally known as the Scion FRS when it went on sale for the 2012 model year. Then when Scion went away in the middle of the decade, the vehicle was rebranded the Toyota 86. And then with this new generation here, the car became the Toyota GR86. The new one here gets a power bump. It now makes 228 horsepower and 184 pounds-feet of torque, and it gets a few other changes as well. This is a fun car to drive. It's meant to be all about driving purity and not much else. So on that note, let's do a little tour of the new GR86 here and then take it for a drive. So this is one of those situations where the GR86 is more of a heavy facelift rather than an entirely new product. It uses the same platform as the 86 and previous generation BRZ, and that's due to a couple reasons. Specialty platforms like this are very expensive to re-engineer from a cost-benefit standpoint, and then two, we're just not seeing a lot of innovation when it comes to gas vehicles these days. So for those reasons, what you're looking at here is a heavily revised version of the previous generation 86 and BRZ. Either way though, I think it looks really good. It's a lot more modern, a lot sharper looking than the previous generation. You've got this big trapezoidal shaped opening up front. The headlights are simple but also very sleek. Here's your Toyota emblem up front, and then there's a little GR emblem off to the side of the grille there. Moving down the side, the premium trim comes with 18-inch wheels. The base model gets 17s. You'll notice they are matte black, and they are wrapped in Michelin Pilot Sport 4 all-season tires. I was surprised to find out that this is an all-season tire. I have to think summer tires would make this vehicle even better. Moving down the side, there's a grille here with three little, spoke things in it, but it adds some visual interest and ties the vehicle in with the Supra a little bit, even though they're both made by entirely different companies. You got black mirror caps here, no sunroof, we're keeping it pretty simple. You'll notice the greenhouse area and this window area is, as far as I can tell, identical to the previous generation car, and that again speaks to the fact that this is more of a heavy facelift than an entirely new vehicle. Moving around back, this is where things get really fun. The premium model comes with this awesome duck bill or duck tail spoiler. So you can see the trunk lid ends right here, and then that spoiler adds a lot of height right there. Spoiler really makes the design of this car. You'll notice the taillights kind of connect back here. This is kind of a new design element that you're seeing across a lot of different Toyota products, and that's this light that comes across the tailgate and then kind of hooks back down right there. I don't know, maybe you'll notice that on other Toyotas. Badging, again, pretty simple. Toyota emblem and then GR and 86 right there. Let's take a look inside the trunk. So it opens electronically via that button right there, tiny little button. It's pretty small, I mean even smaller than I expected. There is a rubber cargo mat there, and then a Toyota first aid kit velcroed onto the side of the trunk. Nothing else really to see back here. Here's the key, and you'll probably notice right away that other than the Toyota emblem, this is a Subaru key. I mean, this is Subaru's key design. So you've got lock, unlock is the emblem, and then trunk release is that button right there, and then the panic button is right there. And as far as I can tell on this vehicle, pretty much everything you interact with is Subaru. There's nothing inside or outside of this vehicle that I recognize as being from any other Toyota products. So I know the vehicles were designed in collaboration between Subaru and Toyota, but from a hardware standpoint, I'm having a hard time identifying anything on this car other than the Toyota emblems as being Toyota parts. To me, it seems pretty much Subaru through and through. So let's climb inside here. and take a look at the window sticker. So you can see this is a 2022 Toyota GR86 Premium. That's the more expensive of two trim levels. And speaking of price, this one has some accessories on it that kind of muddy the waters when it comes to the price here. But as equipped, this one at least comes in at $32,658 when you factor in a $1,025 destination fee. That's about as much as you could expect to pay for one of these. And again, a few $100s of that, including like a paint protection film and GR key gloves, which this key doesn't even actually have the key glove. But a lot of that, a couple $100s of that is accessories. But as far as powertrain goes, this uses the 2.4 liter Subaru 4-cylinder boxer engine. In this case, it puts out 228 horsepower and 184 pounds-feet of torque. This one's equipped with the 6-speed manual, which is certainly the more fun of the two available transmissions, the other being a 6-speed automatic. The automatic actually costs about $1,000 more than the manual. I thought that was kind of funny. Fuel economy comes in at 20 mpg city, 27 highway, and 22 combined, according to the EPA. That's actually slightly worse than the previous generation, 86 and BRZ, and that can be attributed to the bump in power. So yeah, fuel economy is not great, but again, this is a very focused vehicle, and fuel economy is certainly not meant to be one of its selling points. Let's go ahead and turn it on. So you can see there's a GR start-stop button now. They've added a lot of GR branding to this vehicle. You can see there's a GR emblem spinning in the digital gauge cluster there. But it seems that Toyota is trying to make GR its on-road performance brand, and TRD is becoming more of an off-road specific thing. But we've got the transmission in neutral, so I can take my foot off the clutch. Emergency brake is on. You can see you still get a mechanical emergency brake, which I'm sure a lot of enthusiasts are happy to see. There's a GR emblem on the bottom of the steering wheel here. Speaking of the wheel, to me it seems kind of small, which is a performance car thing. And it's a nice wheel. It's not real thick. There's hardly a thumb slot right there. No flat bottom. This is, I guess, all about purity from a driving perspective. So yeah, you get a really basic steering wheel. I like the digital gauge cluster. This is standard. You can see you get a tachometer in the middle with a digital speedometer. There's your fuel gauge. There's engine temperature and time and outdoor temp. And then here's a trip computer. When you put the vehicle into its track mode, so you've got stability control off, a blank switch here, and then a button for track mode, which also turns off the stability control. But you push and hold that, and you get an entirely different gauge cluster here. So you get a lap timer, a couple of different temperature measurements, and then a tachometer here with a speedometer beneath it. So I'll go ahead and blip the throttle. So that makes for a pretty fun experience. As far as I can tell though, you can't get this view without having stability control turned off, because track mode turns off stability control. So it's not a view that you'd want to drive around town with, because in a rear-wheel drive car like this, you probably want stability control turned on when you're on the road. But either way, let's go back into the regular mode there. Infotainment, again, as far as I can tell, this is all Subaru. So it's Subaru's infotainment system. It's a relatively small display here, but it's big enough. It's touchscreen. I haven't found it that frustrating to use, although one thing that kind of drives me nuts here is when you're on Sirius and you go to adjust the volume via the knob here, I kept accidentally turning on the FM radio. You see what happens there? So you go to adjust volume and you accidentally turn on the radio. So some kinks that could be worked out, but overall, Subaru infotainment here. It's been around long enough, nothing too new. Beneath here, you've got your HVAC controls. They're kind of fun to operate. They feel pretty good. So you got dual zone with a fan button in the middle there, and then sync is right here. So your passenger can adjust temperature individually if they want to, and then you sync the two via that button. More HVAC stuff under here, nothing too exciting. We touched on drive modes. You do have heated seats, and again, these are the same heated seat controls out of the old vehicle. They are a Subaru part, as is everything else in the vehicle as far as I can tell. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just interesting to me, given that this vehicle was co-developed. Oftentimes when you find two different companies co-developing a vehicle, you'll notice that all the hardware comes from one of those two companies. Same goes for the Supra. All the hardware is BMW. When it comes to the GR86 here, all the hardware, as far as I can tell, is Subaru. Moving back, here is your center console storage box, and this bit drives me insane. So you'll notice that when you have your hand on the shift lever, your elbow has to go somewhere. In my case, I'm about 5'10", I'm pretty average sized. In my case, my elbow happens to fall directly on the button for opening the center console box. So half the time I find that I'll be driving down the road and my elbow, of course I can't make it do it now, happened about 5 times in a row the other day, but I'll find that my elbow opens this lid here, which kind of drives me nuts. So you kind of have to consciously bias your elbow toward either the driver's side or the passenger side, because if you got it right there, I swear it happens a lot. You open the lid. Regardless, here's what you've got going on inside this center console box. So 2 cup holders, they are pretty small, and again, they're not real useful because you've got to have your elbow there while you're driving. But this is where your cup holders are. Take it or leave it. And then you've got an aux port and unfortunately just 2 USB-A ports here. In an all-new vehicle, or mostly new vehicle, I'd like to see USB-C. Not sure why the Japanese automakers are so reluctant to include it. But you've got 2 connectivity ports located, again, pretty inconveniently in your center console box there. But again, this car isn't really about convenience or necessarily even day-to-day livability. It's more meant for performance and driving enjoyment. So let's see if we can get in the back seat though before we actually get this thing out on the road. Haven't even tried this yet, so we will unsnap the seatbelt and then see. It doesn't even really want to come forward there. So we'll slide that seat all the way forward. And then, yikes. So, I'm not even that tall, and the squatchy on my hat is jammed right into my skull. So not too comfortable back here. See that? That doesn't even want to come back. So, yeah, and then my feet don't. This would be awful to ride back here. Maybe a really young person, and you'll notice there are car seat latch attachment points, so that's good. So if you had a young kid and they were in a car seat, that's kind of a good barometer for who might fit back here. There aren't even headrests, but as soon as that kid got well, more than like 1.5 feet, 2 feet long, yeah, they wouldn't really even be able to fit back here. So the GR86 is pretty much a 2-seater. We'll leave it at that. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna sit a little bit closer to the wheel, given the nature of the car here. I think we all understand. Okay, driving the new Toyota GR86. I guess that works. So, 6-speed manual transmission. If you're not going to get the manual, then maybe consider other vehicles altogether. This is the kind of vehicle that's meant to elevate, or at least make a case for the manual transmission still being around. As I mentioned, 228 horsepower, 184 pounds-feet of torque. I'm not even sure the 0 to 60 time on this car. I'm assuming it's somewhere between 6 and 7 seconds. 0 to 60 really isn't the idea or the name of the game here with the GR86. It's more about handling and shifting the manual transmission. Something I learned over the course of this week, this car really doesn't come alive until it's at about 4,000 or 5,000 RPM. So if you're gonna be shifting, between say 2,000 and 3,000 RPM. You might not really connect with the vehicle only after I started bringing the revs, and the red line's at about 7,500 RPM, but only after I started bringing the revs up to 5, 6, 7,000 RPM before shifting did I really start to connect or get the fun of this vehicle. But either way, let's take off here, and I will be sure to wait until about 6,000 or 7,000 RPM to shift. That was 7. That was about 7,500. You'll notice we hit the red line and the revs cut out. I knew that cutout was there. That's the only reason I took it to red line. But yeah, like you can probably tell, the car really starts to wake up when you get above 6,000 RPM. It's not really about ruckusly fast acceleration as much as it is handling and the connection between your left foot, your right hand, the steering wheel, the gas pedal, all that. And all those things do come together pretty well in this car. The interior is pretty basic, pretty Spartan. As I'm driving along here, you've got the infotainment system. The digital gauge cluster is pretty good. I'm thinking that's something that's bespoke to this vehicle. And the layout and everything, whether you're in the regular mode or this track mode here, the layout's pretty good. I find it pretty intuitive. We're gonna go ahead and take another lap here just to get a couple more acceleration pulls going up the road. You can induce a little bit of oversteer, which is fun. Let's go into track mode. Hope I don't regret this. Okay, there's track mode. About 60 miles per hour. I will say this isn't my favorite manual transmission to drive. I think the transmission lever could be smoother. The clutch catches really close to the floor, and overall there's just not a large margin for error. Like, it's not a very forgiving transmission. So if you're new to manuals, you might not love this manual like you would the manual in, say, a Volkswagen GTI or Golf R. That's kind of my basis for comparison right here. So if you're gonna be doing a lot of city driving, if you're pulling in and out of parking lots, if you're gonna be having to like feather the throttle while letting out the clutch a lot, there are easier manual transmissions to drive. But when you really open this car up, when you're driving on, say, a canyon road or even just the freeway, then things become more fun. Things become a lot easier. But around town, this transmission is a little bit tricky to master, and it's probably designed for more skilled drivers than the average person, and that's probably a good thing. But there's a bit of a learning curve. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, when you really get into driving, like when you focus and you've got some enthusiasm, this car becomes really fun to drive. It's just the opposite when you're driving through the city, or when you're tired, or when you're not enthusiastic to be driving that day. The car becomes less fun. But that's the idea of a vehicle like this. I mean, you buy this if you like driving, you buy this if you're going to take it to the track a couple times a year at least. You buy this if you like old tuner cars. You buy it if you plan to modify it, if you're enthusiastic about accessorizing, modifying, and tuning vehicles. I mean, that's pretty much who this car is for, and we should all be thankful that a vehicle like this still exists in this era of transportation and cars as commodities. Reverse is achieved by lifting up on this little collar on the shift lever here, and then going all the way over to the left and then up. Backup camera isn't that bad. Another sign that this vehicle uses Subaru components throughout. Toyota's backup cameras are typically terrible, and I can tell this is not a Toyota backup camera because the image isn't distorted, the colors are good, it's not overly grainy. It's not the best backup camera, but it's average, which Toyota backup cameras typically aren't. So Subaru backup camera there, just like the rest of the components in this vehicle are Subaru, which isn't a bad thing. It's just really interesting to me the way companies market vehicles versus, you know, kind of the truth to who builds them. Okay, we are in neutral. Okay, so that's the Toyota GR86. This vehicle is a lot of fun. I reviewed the previous generation. I think the power bump that you get with this new generation is about perfect. I'm not wanting for more power out of this vehicle. That's not really the idea. Similar to the Mazda Miata, this is the kind of car that you want to get the manual. You want to like driving. You should have good driving roads. Accessible to you if you're gonna buy one of these. And if you do, and if you like driving, and if you actually use it how it's meant to be used, this car is a lot of fun. I like bringing it up to 7,000, almost 7,500 RPM, really wakes up at that level. And beyond that, it's fun that there's a car that costs $28,000 to $32,000 and still gets you all this fun performance stuff, and it's the kind of vehicle that you're not going to kill yourself if you really drive it hard, like say like a Ford Mustang with a V8 engine. So across the board, this vehicle is all about balance. Price is reasonable, power output is reasonable, handling is great, car looks cool, it scratches a lot of itches, and yeah, I think that's all part of why the GR86 here got a second generation. Thank you for watching.